But I mean, isn't that a problem in general? I think one of my first interviews was with Gary van Onselen, and he said that the youth, if you determine them below 35, in general they don't vote because
but it's not only South Africa, but here is perhaps a little bit even more pertinent. But worldwide, people, you're a youngster, I can see that. People like you vote once you start paying taxes and have a bond to pay and a car installment and rates and taxes, and once the happenings of life start to impact on you. Otherwise, the risks are high and the stakes are low, and there's very little incentive to get up in the morning in a cold winter morning and go out and vote and to write a letter to a newspaper or protest something up there, just attend a hearing. So you are engaged in other aspects of life. And it's true, young people don't participate because life don't involve them that much. But it changes around about in their 30s when they start to acquire all the trappings of the middle class life. Then that's when they become quietly angry around the Braaivleis fire about the high taxes and the bad roads and stuff like that.
But I mean, as a business model, doesn't that mean that inevitably the EFF was doomed to fail? I mean, if your vote was going to be below 30, it was never going to be successful.
I wouldn't say that they were doomed to fail from the beginning, because they largely, I think people disagree with me sometimes, but I think there's enough to agree with me that they largely a black middle class party. And I think there are signs that a significant part of that black middle class comes from the private sector. In other words, black middle class people working in the private sector. Those that work in the state, they're loyal to the ANC because that's where they get their salaries from. In the private sector, young black men are often confronted with the white arrogance of the white privilege industrialists and board members, which I think this discrepancy between the one history. Have you left me now?
I'm still here.
Oh yeah, the image is just gone. But let me just. Oh, I still. Yeah. Okay, good. Anyways, so I think that there are significant numbers of black middle class people that voted for them, but that's around about 10% or 12%. You need to prop them up with 19-year-old and 20-year-old students, university students, because at one stage they dominated politics at universities, but they couldn't get the votes. If they managed to register those people and get them to vote, they would have done a lot better. They could have challenged the DA even, but they're not good in management and bureaucracy and understanding what political management they have to apply to get people to. They're perfect in getting people out to the street and in the stadium. If nobody can get 50,000 people in the stadium as quickly as they do, the ANC can't even do that. But you have to get them to go and vote. That's a different dynamics.
And it seems like whoever is in charge of the Democratic Alliance, they propose a solution.
Helen is in charge. No doubt about that.
They've proposed a solution.
Federal exec in Cape Town determines everything.
They've proposed a solution in terms of the moonshot. What do you think of still the chances of success of the moonshot? It seems like with Gates and McKenzie, it's over. But I mean, what do you think are still the chances of the moonshot?
Look. I spoke to Michael Beaumont the other day. Even he thinks it's about a stillbirth, and they're the next big thing in the Moonshot Pact after the DA. If they think it's a stillbirth, well, maybe it is. I think that idea that they can put something together before an election, it's doomed because of it is hard to work with the DA. It's hard to work with liberals. It's hard to work with people who are confident and think that they can determine the identity of the future in the opposition politics. There's a desperate need for some humility in the DA, which they don't have. It's not part of their fabric to be cooperative. It's part of their fabric to dominate and to have the last say and the first word, and to be the only one to understand what is the reality of South African politics. And that's why I like the rise of Mzansi, because I think they still have to register as a political party. but they arrange around an idea. And if I have to define the idea, I think they say we can be better. We deserve better. We don't have to be like this. They don't organize themselves in the traditional way of what political parties do, starting branches and getting membership and then leadership, and with all the possible likeliness of instability within that arrangement long before they arrive at the election day. I think they must just make an idea stand. We deserve better. So people vote for them because it's a vague idea. It's amorphous. It's esoteric. It doesn't tell us exactly where we're heading to. It just tells us that we're going somewhere else. We won't settle for what we have now. Because South Africans, we all came here from somewhere else. We are nomadic. We are a moving people, moving minds. And if you tell people that let's trek, let's move, let's pack up and go, I think you can start something. You can start a small spark that will end up in a bushfire. It's possible that people will vote for that idea. I think people are ripe now to vote for a different idea because the idea that we have doesn't work, and the idea that opposition parties formulated. We don't trust them anymore. We really don't trust political parties anymore. So Rise and Zanzi is heavily reliant on the fact that they're not a political party. Don't package yourself as a political party because that comes with a particular stigma. And I think if we really want to make the type of impact which we should be making, just remember the ANC in the last election in 2021 got just 12% of the eligible vote. Just 12% of people between the age of 18 and 108 voted ANC. 88% of South Africans voted for opposition parties, or they said, I'm not going to vote today. I'm staying at home. And in South Africa, you make a big mistake if you think people who stay at home is not revolting against something. So I think that it's possible. There's this massive fertile land of people that all you have to do is tell them, let's pack up and go. Let's move. Let's trek. Let's go somewhere else. I think that idea can fly.
That's a fascinating concept. You're talking about a groot trek, but in a metaphorical sense.
No.
But in a metaphorical sense.
Not a groot trek, just a trek. Just a trek, because a groot trek reminds me of ox wagons and whips and the Bible and stuff. No. We're not leaving South Africa. We're not leaving our home. We're just moving somewhere else to another narrative, to another idea. We're moving. We're packing South Africa and we go. We leave the ANC behind. We are packing South Africa up and we go. That's the idea. But we it's not a groot trek type of thing.
Yeah. That's why I say add a metaphorical sense. It's something.
But concepts are important. Concepts are important. I wouldn't want to be part of a groot trek at all.
Yeah.
I'm just staying right here if that's the case.
But do you believe the DA's intransigence, inflexibility is largely due to Helen Zille? If she were to leave the party, do you think everything would normalize? Or do you think it's bigger than Helen Zille?
Look, the thing about it is that I think Helen Zille is the problem, but I also fear if she leaves that it can collapse completely. That sounds rather ironic if I say that, but it is very possible that they actually need a bit of a dictator. Liberals sometimes, even if they deny it, they exist because they admire leadership. Leadership is a horrible thing. You should actually be relying on a system. If we want to survive in South Africa, let's build a system. Let's build loyalty towards the Constitution. Let's honor our political systems and our economic systems. And let's all pledge loyalty to that, and let's maintain them. Good leaders must be people who honor the system and protect the system from the excesses of those who seek power. That should be good leaders. I think liberals tend to, they elect the leader. That's in the DA is the leader of the party, the leader in the FedEx. It's the party, the leader is so important. The problem for liberals is that they rely heavily on leaders, And if they have a dictator, or at least an authoritarian type of leader, which I think Helen Zille is, if she leaves, you often leave a void, a lack of structure, a lack of a broad spread of authority, a dispersed authority, which makes it very, very hard to maintain that system. It is very possible that they can dip between 15% of the vote if she goes. But if she goes, they will never go anywhere as a party too, because South Africa is a country where you need to cooperate in alliances. You have to make compromises. If we want to go somewhere, we will have to reach agreements across a broad spectrum of views and narratives and ideas. And she's incapable of doing that. So she can maintain a 20% party forever, even maybe. But she cannot make it a 50% party because she's authoritarian. And the danger is for the DA, if she leaves, the whole idea of liberalism as a feature of South African politics may just implode in itself. It's quite possible that they can disappear if she leaves. You're doomed with her and you're doomed without her.
So do you think Zongiso Zibi and Rise Mzansi is one of the best alternatives? I think at a time, but I think you mentioned perhaps Bongani Baloyi would be the next president of South Africa. But I think that is.
At the time I thought he was a better prospect than Ramaphosa. He was certainly a better prospect than Helen Zille. He's by far a better leader than John Steenhuisen. I think the battles between him and Herman Mashaba was just impossible. And there's only one person that can survive in that thing, and that was Herman survived it. I don't know if Herman will survive bigger battles, but I think then he backed the wrong horse. I think instead of starting his own party, he should have walked straight to Rise Mzansi, because he's perfectly molded for that, for a position there. He's got the right mind for that. I think he still might, because remember, Rise Mzansi will eventually try to incorporate political parties and business interest and societal interest and political interest. They will become a broad spectrum of ideas, different ideas embedded in one idea, and that is that we deserve better type of thing. So he might well end up there still, but I think, he's a bit of a wasted talent. I think I expected a lot more from him. But the thing about Zongiso, I spoke to Rolf Meyer the other day, and he said, well, this guy's got no political experience. I said, well, maybe I can't decide whether that's standing in good state or whether it's a disadvantage. In fact, I think it could go either way, but I will put my money on the likeliness that exactly his strength is that he's not a politician, not a natural politician. Of course, I don't know how sustainable it is if you're not a natural politician, because it's a long haul, and it's once you enter this domain where authority and accountability and political contest and all that stuff and nonsense goes with politics, once you enter there, it's hard to maintain or to survive in there unless you conform to some extent to what is typically happening in that environment. But just like Moses, man, just get us out of this bloody part of the country, and then we'll find Canaan later, you know.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump wasn't a politician, and he was to some degree successful.
Really? To what degree?
In terms of winning the election. I mean, the rest is up for speculation, but I mean, he was successful in winning the election. If that's your goal as Zongiso Zibi, if you just want to win the election.
Look, if you look, for example, a better one would have been Macron in France. He also didn't have a political party, and he managed to. But Donald Trump, the reason why he got the power is it's a complicated reason why he eventually won the presidency. But what a waste of a human being! I'm not even talking about a politician. He should have been in jail rather than in the White House. But I mean, he's scum. He's just political scum. He's bad genetic material as a human being. I'm not even talking about a politician. So, but I understand what you tried to say, that you can come from nowhere and you can. But he was cut down to size very quickly in politics. He couldn't win the next election, and there's no doubt that he was the worst thing that could ever happen to America. And they say there were bad presidents long before my time in the 18 and 17 and 1600s, but yeah, I can't imagine a worst human being, worst character in the White House than that guy. Worst one.
Pete, some are saying that, I mean, in some scenario, we have to form a coalition with the ANC. I think Frans Cronje has said this. Perhaps not a coalition, but some sort of agreement post 2024. You can't just leave them to dry. I mean, they control many of the ministries, the bureaucracies. In some ways, you have to incorporate them. And that's why he is, for example, in favor of some sort of degree of understanding between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. Do you think that makes sense?
Look, yeah, I understand why France argues that, because we don't know the extent to which the police and the army and the Hawks and national and state security and the taxi industry and the criminal networks and the cadres, we don't know to what extent they will conform to a new political regime which exclude them. So it might make sense to get the ANC to be in a coalition with another party as a form of an interim until they finally left out completely, where you can, giving you time to rearrange the power structures within the state. It makes sense in that respect. I think I've written that for the Vrye Weekblad as well, 2 or 3 years ago already, that maybe we should get these two political parties together, and then you can get the good management capacity, because the DA by far manages anything that they touch much better than everybody else. Unfortunately, that doesn't make you a good political party. It just makes you a good manager. But that, if we can get that capacity and that skill, and we can combine it with what is good in the ANC? Well, with their presence, because you cannot ignore them. You cannot just cut them out completely, because the risk of what could happen if they suddenly lose all political power. And imagine John Steenhuisen must take over the union buildings, and you have to convince the taxi industry and the mafia bosses and the criminal elements in the coal industry, and it is incredible the dense network of opportunistic and corrupt and criminal interest in just beneath the surface of the formal political economy, in the informal political economy. Those people will in some other way conform to the new regime. So I would say yes, as a form of interim, if you can have that combination, and then hopefully you'll need or you reach a point where you don't have to be to incorporate them anymore. There's no reason, because you can gradually alienate or perhaps resolve the issues of criminality and gangsterism and mafia type of informal economic structures. It's such a long road to travel, but I guess that's where you have to go.
But R.W. Johnson has warned on our show, the danger is the ANC will drag you down with them. So
exactly.
Isn't that the real danger? I mean,
that's I think the reason why I argue, and that's why I think maybe that I don't want to think on behalf of Frans Cronje, but that's why I think they will drag you down with them. There's no doubt about it, if you allow them to. So that arrangement will have to be carved out by great minds and great personalities, and it will have to be embedded in very solid structures and agreements and contracts and arrangements. I don't know if it can be done. It's just in theory. Theoretically, it makes sense. In practice, I don't want to say that I agree with R.W. Johnson, because there's a bit of a stigma of him being a right wing, and I'm not saying he is, but I try to avoid agreeing with him that much. But I think he's right. They will infect you. They will infest you. They will never allow you to start cleaning up the state, because it's not in their interest to clean up the state. They don't want you to address the issues of corruption, because they thrive in corruption. That's how they do their business. That's how they do their politics.
Piet, this has been an awesome interview as always. Thank you so much for your wise analysis. The summary I draw from this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the summary I see is there's a lot of negative things in South Africa, but there's positive offshoots like Rise Mzansi and Zongizo Zibi trying to find the alternatives. What would you correct in this summary?
I think we have an awareness of the risks. We know how close we are coming to the edge, and I think there are great minds thinking very creatively about how we can at least survive this at first, and then hopefully build something better eventually based on that survival. I think I'm not giving up in South Africa. I just think it's going to be a rough ride, and I'll send my children to go work overseas while we're fighting the battles here and try to solve the problem. And one day, if I look like I'm dying, they can take me to the Namib Desert, there on a camel tree, just halfway up against the dune. 2 liters of breast milk. Leave me just there. I'll be fine.
Thank you, Piet. This has been great. Thank you so much for your time, as always.
Thank you. Bye-bye.